Hello guys, this is your friend Shinobi Addict 2.0 and we are back with a new fanfic. Which is what if Naruto built a powerful harem with Anko, Hanabi, Yakumo Hinata, Sakura, Ino, Kurenai, Tenten, and Shizuka Part 1. And if you enjoy this fanfic then please press the like button and subscribe to my channel for more fanfic like this. And now let's start the fanfic. At first, it was just a hum, the kind one might annoyingly swat away, absolutely sure a fat fly was buzzing far too close to the ear. Mere weeks later and for quite some time, the sound morphed into distant chatter, hazy, like the final incoherent echoes of conversation. It had made, then, potential graduate student, Uzumaki Naruto constantly swivel his head like a whip, dead intent on locating this elusive chatter. He heard it everywhere, in the middle of class, walking through the markets, training in the woods, relaxing in his apartment, and his frustration grew every time he couldn't locate its source. Presently, however, as he drags his feet away from Konoha's hospital, the last thing on his mind was some annoying chattering sound he couldn't identify. The day was bright and the pure white clouds were large and puffy against the baby blue of the sky. Certainly, a joyous day for many in the Nation of Fire, unless you were Naruto and Yumi no Iruka. The thoughtful and caring Chunin sensei had selflessly saved his life from the traitor, Mizuki, just days before, using his body to stop a large shuriken that was meant for him. For his troubles, Naruto's favorite academy sensei is now paralyzed from the chest down. Walking that long sorrowful path toward nothing and no one, the only voice in Naruto's head was the list of injuries the nurse was adamant the young genin had caused that night by needlessly moving Iruka-sensei in a panicked rush to get the injured Chunin-sensei to the hospital. Because of your carelessness, the nurse yelled, his spine, spinal nerve roots, intercostal nerves, ribs, and lungs were extraneously damaged. Because of you, he'll never have a career as an active Konoha shinobi again. He'll be lucky if he can ever walk again. Now, get out. He doesn't want to see you. Truthfully, Naruto didn't understand most of what she said. It all sounded terrible, but the part that struck him the most, the thing he blames himself so utterly over, is being the reason Iruka-sensei can never be a shinobi again. Before he knew the extent of his sensei's injuries, Naruto was supremely confident the scarred sensei would be fine in a couple of days. Naruto himself recalls being stabbed before and he was always fine in a day or two. He had been so excited to visit the Chunin to show off his brand new Hitai-8, to regale him with how they passed Kakashi-sensei's bell test, only to be yelled that Iruka-sensei doesn't want to see him. The difference in walks to and from the hospital is like a moonless night and a pleasant day. Why wouldn't he be fine? He was supposed to be. Naruto can't help but think. That shouldn't happen to good people. Single quote. Lamenting over the grievous injury of his single mentor, his fourth special person after Ji-chan, Tsukijiji, and Ayame-ne, he unknowingly found himself on the best spot overlooking all of Konoha. Admiring the robust village, now cognizant of why the majority hate him and the thing inside him, only fueled his need to make things right again, to desperately fight this horrible feeling in his chest from festering. Gigi had taught him long ago that nothing changes if you stay unhappy about it. Smiling is contagious because happiness is contagious, Naruto recites, recalling Hokage Gigi explained to him after another crowd had hurt him. When we are happy, people can feel that energy, and it can make them happy in return. That is why I think the best weapon against hatred and loneliness is love and friendship. The old man would smile happily at a frightened 5-year-old Naruto, and Naruto, though sad and confused, couldn't help a small smile spread his lips. From that point on, Naruto grew to understand the old man's words with every passing day, and tried to fight the village's animosity with his best smiles and goodwill. If I became the best shinobi in the village, and then the best Hokage of all time, I just know Iruka-sensei would be happy, Naruto mentally declares as if combating the guilt within with his sheer determination. He may not be the smartest shinobi in class, but even he knows the steps to take Gigi's white hat, work harder than anyone and protect your village. I couldn't stop Mizuki Tem from hurting Iruka-sensei, but I won't let anything bad happen to sensei again. I know it. Nah. Rut. Oh. Naruto whipped around, hopping on his feet, looking for whoever called his name. It was faint, wispy really, but he's certain he heard it. Hello. He cautiously calls. Who's there? There's no response. After a few seconds of silence, Naruto straightens up from his guarded stance. Confident it must have been his imagination, he hops off of the Yondaime's stone visage to train, to make Iruka-sensei proud. Team 7's first meeting as an official Konoha squad isn't until next week, and with clenched fists, he's determined to be the best one in it. It won't be for nothing, Iruka-sensei. Just you watch. He mentally pumps himself up as he dashes to his favorite training ground, Training Ground 28. It's a small thing compared to the better newer training grounds, or the older revered ones nearer to the center of town, but it's less likely to Avenue any shinobi already training in it. Using rotting, weathered targets hanging from various branches of several trees for his shuriken and kunai practice, he concentrates on attempting 6 simultaneous shuriken throws. He's gotten fairly good at throwing 2 shuriken per hand with decent accuracy, but 3 per hand is frustrating him to get right. As he's just about to release the spinning missiles, he hears it again. Naru. 2. It's louder, seizing his muscles for a split second and breaking his concentration, scattering his precious few throwing stars everywhere but on target. Ua. WHWHWH, who's there? Naruto yells out, searching desperately around, in shadows, in the canopy above or bushes below, extant. Ding his senses for any sound that's not of nature. Whoever it is better come out now or I swear I'll make you eat dirt. He adamantly yells with a pointed finger. No one comes out. It was silent, unnerving, and he was still and rigid for a solid 5 minutes. He nearly relaxes his guard when he heard it again. Oh, you hear? Naruto begins to wonder if he's going crazy because it was starting to sound more like this unrecognizable male voice was in his head rather than somewhere around him where unrecognizable voices ought to be. WWWH who? Naruto stammers, asking aloud but dreading a response, very much so dreading it. I can, you bet. The voice said, and Naruto runs. Like a bolt out of a bow, he sprints full out with no real direction in mind other than away. How's that? The voice asks. That better. I'm going crazy, I'm going crazy, I'm going crazy. Naruto mentally repeats, casually noticing the voice feels even clear despite sprinting away from it. Feeling nothing but adrenaline in his legs, he runs flat out, making the trees look like a blurry paste around him. You're no going crazy, the young but deep voice states, interjecting his reply in Naruto's thoughts. Suddenly, Naruto ends his panicked sprint with a bit of a slide, ninja sandals ripping earth until he comes to a stop, shouting, wait a minute. Looking around the forest again, he asks, is this a prank? That you Konohamaru, Sasuke Tem, Kakashi sensei, whoever it is, you better believe I won't rest until I get you back 10 times worse. It's not prank, the voice says. Though that'd be pretty awesome prank. Single quote. Naruto groans in startling surprise, bringing up his fingers' nails to be nervously gnawed on by his teeth. This is genjutsu, some kinda crazy illusion, trying to make me do something stupid, like steal women's panties or eat vegetables. I won't do it. This isn't genjutsu, Naruto, the voice says with a chuckle. Kami, it feels so weird calling you that. Why would that be weird, you weirdo? It's my name. How do you even know my name? Question mark quote. Naruto tosses back strongly, walking around bushes and behind trees, doing his best to locate a physical person nearby who's responsible for this jutsu, and yet he finds no one. I know it's your name, the voice says, still seemingly sounding amused. Because it's also my name. But for a couple of skeptical blinks, his entire body freezes as his patience momentarily yields and reboots. This may be a wicked prank, but I'm still not falling for it. Naruto yells. I'm the one and only, future Hokage, Uzumaki Naruto. Now get out here so I can kick the crap out you. Well, listen up, Uzumaki Naruto, the next Hokage. Naruto starts, lightly mocking the boy's use of his full name and aspiration. What I'm about to tell you is going to be hard to believe, but you and I share the same name because we're actually the same person. I'm the you from the future. 2 more blinks at the unexpectedly ludicrous revelation and an exhale of admiration, and Naruto can't help but think with a small mea. Sure of respect, you are, even I wouldn't have thought of a prank like that. Thanks, but since I'm you, technically you did, or will. No, I mean, this isn't a prank, the voice mentally replies to Naruto's thought. You can read my mind. Naruto calls out, nearly falling from the branch he was using to scale a tree in search of the hidden prankster. After regaining his balance, he hops to the ground, beginning to entertain the notion that there's no one to find because there was no one around. Oh, this is going to take a while, time we don't have, the voice couldn't help but exhale. Look, I really am you from the future and I can prove it. You should be genin by this point, at least that's what I was aiming for. Your Jonin-sensei is Hitaki Kakashi, and your teammates are Haruno Sakura-chan and Uchiha Sasuke. Bah, that doesn't prove anything, Naruto quickly retorts, still looking around. They announced it in class. Everyone heard. Fair enough, the young deeper voice concedes. How about something only you would know? Like the first time you had Ichiraku's ramen. You were 8 years old and Tsukijiji found you unconscious in the alley where he dumps his trash. You were scared but he was kind, and let you sit in his stand. Ayame-ne bandaged you up while Tsukijiji made you a bowl of pork and beef ramen. We knew instantly, outside of Ji-chan, he was one of the few safe adults in the village. And Ayame-ne was just as awesome. Who else could know that but us? Naruto doesn't respond for a few moments, absorbing the nature and the truth of the voice's accurate claims. He did meet Tsukijiji and his daughter when he was 8. The civilian adults stopped attacking him long before that, but teenage bullies were another matter entirely and would chase him down every time they spotted him. It's true no one would know what Tsukijiji and Ayame-ne did. Wait. Naruto sluggishly speculates aloud. They would know. Gigi and Ne-chan could have told you. I mean I doubt they ever would, but fine, the voice states. We're low on time so I'll name a few things quickly. Stuff only we know. You first developed the Waroke no Jutsu, sexy technique, because you noticed how girls are treated better and how much more attention they'd get. You found a box of barely legal and raw kunoichi magazines in the dump, peeped on girls in the bathhouses, and finished the jutsu in 6 months. Though wide-eyed in shock and red in the face, Naruto refutes nothing as the voice continues. You found your green goggles in the park by the academy. You stayed there for nearly 3 hours waiting to see if anyone would come back for them. When no one did, you kept it on your head in hopes someone might recognize them. You found a fat toad in that pond by the Hyuga compound. You became best friends and named him Gama-chan. Naruto can hear the levity in his voice all but disappear when he continues. We were really sad when some of Hyuga kids killed him. That was a hard month, but while you were scavenging the dump, you found a toad wallet that reminded you of Gama-chan and kept it. Your shinobi tools were mostly scavenged from corpses in Training Ground 44. Everything else in your apartment is a hand-me-down, clearance sale, are found in the dump because nearly all the shops in the village make you pay more. You sent a letter to yourself when you first learned how to write because you never got any mail and you wanted to know what it felt like. Okay, Naruto finally said, calling an end to the voice's rather depressing tirade of his life. Whatever, I still don't think you're me from the future, but I'll hear you out. Start by telling me how awesome I become. How fast do I become Hokage? First, the voice interrupts, cutting off some of Naruto's excitement. You have to know I won't always be with you like this, speaking to you like this isn't a constant thing. What I'm doing takes a lot of effort and concentration to keep up. I'll explain what that is next time. As we speak, it's getting harder and harder to stay, so until I can get a better handle on this, for now, I can only talk for minutes at a time, maybe 20 if I really try. Single quote. Sounds complicated, Naruto grumbles. Why can't you tell me now? Not enough time, the voice says. I'll be back, though, once I've rested, but for these last few minutes, I just want to explain a bit of why I'm here. The short version is, there's a fourth great shinobi war, and basically, we lose. Lots of people we know will die, and the rest are trapped in a never-ending, unbreakable genjutsu. I'll explain more next time, but the reason we lost is because I wasn't strong enough. Team 7, our friends, our village, the entire shinobi world is a slave to this really bad guy because we weren't strong enough to stop him. It was all too easy to manipulate us, the nations, I mean, because we were all too busy hating each other and fighting amongst ourselves to stop and think. In the end, we couldn't stop this cycle of hate, which meant, we couldn't stop him. Are you serious? Naruto huffs with wide eyes. Hee, yeah, I guess that would be hard for anyone to accept, the voice admits. But it's true. There's something else, and this is going to be really important. You already know Kage Bunshin, right? Quote. Yeah, Naruto slowly acknowledges. Good, the voice affirms. What you probably don't know, or won't know until years later for some odd reason, is that any knowledge or experience your Bunshin experiences, you'll learn as well after it's dispelled. Try this, if you don't, believe me. Oi, Naru ni, you okay? Naruto asks uneasily, sensing the struggle in the voice's speech. I only have seconds, Naru ni barely manages to get out. Make a Kage Bunshin. Make it talk to Tsukijiji, or Aruka sensei, somebody. Then, dispel it. You'll learn every thing it learned. Quiet fills Naruto's expectation of further conversation. After several moments of silence, Naruto can't help but call out, "Nay, Naru ni. Naru ni, you still there?" Other than the wind breezing through grass, leaves, and branches, and the birds singing, Naruto is me. With silence. Head tilting to the side, Naruto scratches his smooth hairless chin, pondering everything that's happened. He questions the merits of this complicated prank, if he can even call it a prank. Humming inquisitively against the rustling sounds of blowing trees, he slowly reflects on the voice and how it knew things about him that no one else could know. Naruto was fairly sure if the voice continued, it would have only mentioned more anecdotes about his outcast of a life, so, it's either the most elaborate prank in the history of pranks, or meh. Naruto shrugs, forming the hand seals for the Kage Bunshin. He's always been a practical guy, not that he wouldn't love the brains to think his way through problems, but the academy pointed out to him a long time ago he just wasn't smart for that kind of rational approach. What's more, he isn't really doing anything dangerous, or suspect, like how Mizuki tricked him into stealing the scroll of seals. Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. From a quickly evaporating puff of white smoke, 9 shadow clones of himself pop into existence. He said one, but whatever, Naruto mumbles, taking a commanding step in front of his troops. Alright, listen up. I want 3 of you to go somewhere. One goes to Ayame, one to Ji-chan, and one to Uruka sensei. Break into his room if you have. Just see him. You can dispel after that. With little more than a quick look between the 9, 3 immediately break off. How those 3 knew they were the ones, the original didn't know, nor care. What about us? One clone calls. The rest of you go to look for the shuriken I threw earlier. When you find one, leave it there and dispel. I guess I'll learn where it is. Yosh. The rest of the clones call, fists in the air, and Naruto watches them rush off to get to work, all the while inking a bit at what he's heard. It's not every day you're told the fate of the entire shinobi world rests on your shoulders, much less failed when it mattered. Lives of families, friends, strangers, ninja, civilian, and everything in between somehow are depending on him and he doesn't know why. Ji-chan is the strongest person he knows. Why wouldn't they rely on him instead? If for some absolutely insane reason, everything Naru-ni said turns out to be true, he can't help but compare it to Iruka-sensei. He failed to keep his sensei safe, even ended up hurting him worse in his great panic, and that was only one person. What Naru-ni is talking about is for the fate of everyone. Ji-chan, Tsukiji, Ayame-ne, Iruka-sensei, Sakura-chan, maybe even the people that hate him. Naruto can't see how everyone could depend on him like that. Wouldn't he just fail to keep everyone safe as he had his favorite sensei? Naruto felt restless, like he's been sitting for too long and itching to get up. All these questions he has no answers for is making him doubt himself. This has to be a prank. Naruto calls out. How could it not be? He thinks, when suddenly information, a memory, knowledge he didn't have of a lost shuriken he tossed somewhere in the woods, pops into his mind. It feels like a little strain pulling, like someone quickly ripping a single strand of hair from his head. As he takes in the entire memory, he questions how true it is, how real this is. His first step to fetch his newly recalled shuriken is interrupted with another flash memory, leaping into his mind, cause the ache on his brain to momentarily sharpen. Before too long, Naruto learns where all 6 of his shuriken went and has a headache similar to prolonged brain freeze for his efforts. The concentrated, lethargic pricks of pain don't last long, a couple minutes or so, and it's not nearly the worst pain he's ever experienced. However, it's an effect he makes a note of nonetheless. With all his worn throwing stars in his pouch, the first of his shadow's conversations floods his mind. Naruto squints his eyes at the pinch to his brain as a whole conversation with Ayame-ne plays out in Hi's mind. It was a simple conversation. Nothing of note or relevance other than the usual, "Hey, Ayame-ne," and, "How's it going?" Though she had finished their short conversation with a phrase she's often directed at him. Nothing but the freshest ingredients for our favorite customer. No sooner had he thought that sounds just like her, did another memory materialize in his mind. He was in the Hokage Tower. He tried to see Ji-chan but his secretary had informed him that the Hokage was in a council meeting. That should be easy to double check, Naruto says to himself. Whether the voice knew about the meeting or not didn't matter. He himself didn't know about the meeting, so if there is, in fact, a meeting, the voice will have told him something about this jutsu that neither Kakashi-sensei or Ji-chan informed him of. He's not angry with them, but he certainly doesn't understand why they wouldn't mention this neat little trick. If he wasn't a serious shinobi of the leaf, he would certainly be planning the biggest chronicle of pranks for the year. The final memory he received on the path home. It was a hurried memory. His clone had been found trying to get past the entrance, and they chased after him. The majority of the staff may be talented in saving lives, but he's been chased for most of his. He managed to hold them off until he finally found Iruka-sensei. He was asleep, propped up on his bed with at least 5 pillows and a harness around his torso, keeping him up. It was the last image before his clone ended its existence, but it was enough consolation just to see Iruka-sensei. He didn't look great, mentally Naruto admits, and if he were honest with himself, he's having a hard time keeping the guilt from assuming control. So much so, in fact, he stops his journey back home in favor of returning to Training Ground 28 to continue training. He may or may not have spoken to his future self, he may or may not have been duped, but he wasn't going to waste any time on his path to get stronger. If everything Naru-ni said turns out to actually be true, he will not fail again, just like he won't fail Iruka-sensei again. Kurenai. Thank you very much for granting me audience, Hyuga Dono. Kurenai clearly and evenly tells the Hyuga clan head, her palms placed daintily on the floor in an upside-down V as she bows her head respectfully. The large receiving chamber in the main branch's home of the Hyuga compound was as traditional as every other resident on the large property. Despite the antiquated style of the sitting room, the hardwood furnishing, the tatami mats, the gold and silver trim lining the beams, counters, and zaisu, wa.'s immaculate. It gave the impression of wealth within tradition. The sliding doors were closed for privacy, and despite there being no windows, the well-lit room was not stuffy. Hyuga Hiyashi sat rigid, kneeling on an elevated platform ahead of the bowing kunoichi, while Kurenai sat kneeling 10 paces away. Her lush ebony hair flowered the sides of her bowed head. Such deference to a man that wasn't her Hokage was unfavorable to her, but sadly unavoidable. The beautiful kunoichi was taught well and studied hard. Though coming from very little, she had unassailable drive, a drive to make her father proud, a drive to prove her mother wrong, a drive to exalt the reverence of Konoha's will of fire. She worked hard to be the best genjutsu master in all of Konohagakure, as much for herself as for her deceased but what made her most proud, is that every ounce of hard-earned skill and knowledge gained is in profound service of future generations. Their distinguished gains as shinobi of the leaf is her greatest honor. In mind, body, and soul, her goal is to help the youths in her charge in any and every way she can, so they might pass on their will of fire to the students in their time. Determined, Kurenai knows she needed to be respectful to Hyuga Hiyashi for her goal, far more than she would otherwise be. In truth, she doesn't approve of the Hyuga system, but for her charge, she'll bow and give reverence to the arrogant slave owner, even if she'd much rather trap him in a hellish never-ending nightmare for the rest of his miserable life. You've declared this meeting was in regard to Hinata, Hiyashi stated in a deep, belittling tone nearly to the point of offensive. Speak. The man had little eyes of steel, the kind that would express the same amount of emotion to an infant as an enemy. He peered over her, exhuming nothing but vain misogynistic pride. Now that he's spoken to her, Kurenai raises her head to meet his brass gaze and address him. As you are no doubt aware, I am your daughter's Jonin sensei. Quote, you are not who I would have chosen were I given the honor of petitioning for recommendations, Hiyashi easily explained, as if his callous judgment on the choice of his daughter's sensei was beneficial to how Kurenai viewed herself. For her part, Kurenai didn't betray her ultimate goal for the growing ire toward the Hyuga head. Instead, she continued as if no insult was given. It is because of my inexperience that I wished to speak with you. It is why I've also spoken with the Aburame and Inuzuka clans. Continue, Hiyashi commanded like he would another of his servants. Putting great effort in keeping her face neutral of any animosity swirling within her ample bosom, Kurenai continues, no less bothered than by a sunny day. I would not wish to violate any clan's laws, inadvertent or not, as I educate your heir. If there are any subject matters with regard to confidential Hyuga affairs you would prefer I avoid, I'd like to be aware of those boundaries beforehand so I can make the appropriate adjustments to my training regiment. I would also be grateful for any input you can offer me with regard to Hinata-san's training thus far and your hopes for her future progress. I wish to make up any lack of experience with a great amount of preparation, determination, and humility should outside counsel be helpful. Quote, I see, the Hyuga head states with spiritless interest. Your willingness to make up your shortcomings is admirable, no doubt serving you well in your short career. However, it is unnecessary and a waste of your efforts. Quote, a twitch of the skin between her brows is the only indication that she's taken aback by his words. May I inquire as to why that is? I have no doubt you'll soon learn Hinata has no talent as a kunoichi and is sorely lacking as the heiress to the Hyuga clan, Hiyashi easily answers the beautiful Jonin sensei. As a veteran shinobi and her father I can say, with regret, Hinata is a disappointment as a daughter, an heir to our great clan, and as you'll soon learn, as a kunoichi. I offer you words of caution, as a token for the appropriate respect shown here. Conserve your time, skill, and effort where my daughter is concerned. Save your consideration for the students who have real need of it. Before the death of Kurenai's father in the Kyubi attack, he instilled in her the foundation her every decision, her every act, her every ambition draws strength from. Kurenai believes that the will of fire passed along to the rising youths of today is more vital to the village than the role of Hokage. After all, the Hokage is only one man. The will of fire is an immortal ideal that's lived on from generation to generation since the founding of the village. It was her absolute imperative to serve her village, her home, by instilling this value in those shinobi of the leaf that need it, Anko being a prime example of that. When everyone else shunned her, feared her, reviled her very name for her association with Orochimaru, Kurenai extended a friendly hand and honest friendship. A decision she's been happy with every day since. For the Hyuga clan head to disregard his own flesh and blood, and disrespect the future of this village to such an extent, Kurenai had to bite the inside of her red lips hard enough to draw blood to keep from losing decorum. And failing her mission, she still had need of formal civility, and more than anything, she won't allow him his way. I understand your position, Hyuga Dono. Kurenai starts evenly if not slightly more sweetly than earlier. However, I've had the opportunity to witness her abilities and I am confident she can make a great addition to Konoha's forces. I am most grateful and honored for your advice, however, I have faith that Hinata-san will flourish in the future as a kunoichi, and if I may be so bold, as the Hyuga clan's heir. Your confidence gives me pause for concern, the pompous clan head drolls. If you've indeed witnessed Hinata's skill level and still claim that she will make a fine kunoichi of the leaf, then I question your competence. Hanabi has defeated her in every exchange. Not only does Hinata lack the acumen to master our clan's techniques and fighting style, but she has no resolve, no tenacity. Her spine is weak and her mind brittle. Quote, how the arrogant, high-born scum can say that about his firstborn daughter with a straight face, Kurenai will never know, nor care to understand. It's very clear to her this man has given up on Hinata's future. From everything she's heard, what she's been told, as well as watching Hinata herself, Kurenai certainly expected a domineering figure, imposing in his reproachful role as a founding clan of the village, but this goes far beyond Hinata's timid selflessness. Kurenai would bet everything she owns that this man hates his daughter, or at the very least, holds a deep grudge against her. She's certain there's a reason, an explanation of sorts, but at the moment, the why isn't important. Her decision is clear. She must take Hinata away from this man's clear psychological abuse if Hinata ever has a chance of reaching her potential and gain her will of fire. Soon, Hanabi will enter the academy, and exemplify the true strength of the Hyuga clan, Hiashi proudly states with even a high NT of affection. As for your request, Hinata is capable enough to keep clan affairs to herself. You need no summary of her training thus far. It will not change her grade nor her fate. You may leave. Kurenai wasn't leaving. She was practically vibrating with conviction and with resolve, stating, I wish to make a request, if you would do me the honor of listening to my selfishness. He remained still as a statue, however, the rumbling groan she can hear from within his chest gave away his irritation. After some tense moments of stretched silence, his tense jaw responds, speak. I wish to take Hinata-san as my live-in ward, Kurenai promptly responds with all the steadfast tenacity she could possibly imbue in her tone. She doesn't lack parental care, Hiashi grounds out, his ire quite clear in his tone. She does not need your custody. Regardless of the Hyuga's desire to end discourse, Kurenai is driven to continue. He father taught her to fight hard when it matters, as he did when the village was attacked by that detestable demon, so too will she against this one. I do not ask to foster her as a parentless child, but to develop her capabilities and confidence in our shared profession as shinobi of Konohagaku. I firmly believe she is still more than capable of improvement and I have great faith she can make her clan and village proud. She may have put too much emphasis on can, but maybe he needs to hear Hinata is not beyond hope as much as she needs to hear it, that there is somebody in this village who believes in her. And Kurenai is going to make sure Hinata knows she has all the support she needs in her sensei. As her sensei, Kurenai continues. It would be unsatisfactory if I could not perform the duties requested of me by our Hokage to the best of my ability and raise a valuable kunoic. High for our great village. Enough. Hiashi bellows, certainly hearing his own failings in her own doctrine. Kurenai flinches at the boom of his voice, slightly jerking her head and lush dark locks to the right. It's not that she was scared or startled by the man's outburst, quite the opposite in fact. She saw an opportunity, a strategy only women can employ. It's been her daily experience that men find her attractive, even among other beautiful women, and unbeknown to most men in the village, they are beguiled or pacified by her charms. In this case, her flinch and slight jerk bounced the buoyancy of her ample, showing a full view of exposed cream-colored cleavage he could easily view from his elevated position. She can already see him calming down, but does not smile, lest he feels mocked for his gender. Even if the little show didn't outright lure him from his convictions, it assisted enough as he continued. You dare presume I've failed in my duties as clan head and as her father. I will not hear it. I know what is right for this clan along with this village. For you to say otherwise is an egregious offense to the Hittite you wear over your brow. I do not presume anything of the sort, Kurenai calmly returns, thinking how much worse his response could have been. I only wish to suggest a perspective not previously available. Consider, Hinata may respond more advantageously under the guidance of another kunoichi. As a woman, I may better understand her mindset, her needs, and address them to the benefit of her growth. Quote, the seconds tick on in silence. Kurenai is certain the pompous man is weighing his options against his disinterest against his public image. That's exactly the position Kurenai wanted to back him in. If she's truly too far gone and he's given up on her, then her request shouldn't matter. And should he deny her request, it's more clear than ever how much contempt he holds for her. Furthermore, the Hyuga's image could not possibly appear weak. The Hyuga are too proud to accept any outside assistance with one of their members, much less the heiress. She's fortunate that's not an issue here since Kurenai is already her assigned sensei. The tense silence seems to stretch on forever until Hiashi finally addresses her. You play a dangerous game, Yuhi-san. Your attitude towards me is not as well hidden as you believe, not from my eyes, for no one can see better than the Hyuga. Regardless of your childish beliefs, you have a duty as her sensei. If it is professional prerogative that Hinata needs supplementary lessons, I will allow you to take a vested interest in her growth. As the head of this great clan and her father, I am not so proud that I would deny my daughter additional aid, no matter how misplaced it may be. However, if I see no significant form of improvement by the end of the Chunin exams, Hanabi will succeed her as heiress. He didn't have to say the rest for Kurenai to understand what's at stake. The Hyuga clan needs only one heir. Like Hizashi before her, born only seconds after Hiashi, Hinata too will be branded with the clan's cursed seal, despite being born of the main family branch, a fate no better than slavery by many accounts. You paint a lofty picture of my daughter, the man continued almost snidely. Let it not be said that I did not give you the opportunity to realize such passionate claims. It would be an undue waste to challenge the time stipulation, but she won't simply take such a concession lying down. She's never been the type to roll over and show her belly, not since her father. No, for her students, she'd slit the man's throat without hesitation. With just as much tenacity as she's demonstrated thus far, Kurenai continues, to further aid her progress, I request she stay with me in my home. It is a simple 3-bedroom home in the Shinobi district with all the amenities necessary for training. Almost with a tooth-grinding growl, he responds, you may house her for the week at your own expense. As for the weekends, unless she is training or on a mission, she stays with her clan. Kurenai promptly bows, the cool steel of her forehead protector touching the back of her hands placed firmly on the floor. Thank you for your time and consideration, Hyuga Dono. Choji, waiting patiently behind a wood beam within the large traditional home of the Akamichi clan, Choji watches his mother speaking with Nara Yoshino-san by the doorway. Spying on the two-woman laugh with such gusto every few minutes was a bitter reminder of how much he wanted that kind of friendship, not that Shikamaru wasn't great. The Nara heir was like the brother he always wanted, and if their parents were anything to go by, they always will be. It made Choji glad to know that he would have a best friend in Shikamaru for life. It's the third member of their newly formed cell he's hoping will emulate the friendship and partnership their parents seem to effortlessly have. So far, Yamanaka Ino's been demanding, vain, and just shy of outright abusive towards her teammates, and while he agrees with her that Asuma-sensei's smoking is bad for them, he certainly does not care if Uchiha-kun would think her skin is splotchy and sickly because of it. Shikamaru explained that's just how girls are, but Choji's seen how their parents interact, so that can't always be the case. He'd spent a whole night making welcome to the team dango, 3 different flavored sticks for each of them. Asuma-sensei and Shikamaru accepted theirs gratefully, not quite as happily as he would have preferred, but certainly much better than Ino, who flat out rejected his gesture, yelling at him about her strict diet and how Uchiha-kun wouldn't appreciate a fat girl. He knew she didn't mean to call him fat, but it didn't hurt any less than when other kids said it. In fact, now that they were teammates, it easily dashed his hopes of forming the type of bond their parents easily share. Even Choji can see how pretty Ino is, and her figure is more feminine than the other girls, so he couldn't see how a few sticks of dango could really hurt. Watching the mothers in front of him conversing joyfully, he wondered if that could happen soon between himself, Shikamaru, and Ino. His mother suddenly lets out a boisterous laugh and hops on dexterous toes toward the product room connected to their large red brick kitchen. Choji follows her down the clean halls of their large house and can't help but ask his mother, Okawa-san, what does Yoshino-san want? Is it about the celebration barbecue? His mother slightly tilts her head towards him as she continues to walk forward, answering, no sweetie, that won't be until this weekend. Yoshi-chan just needed to pick up a pill is all. Quote, walking through the large brick kitchen, feeling the wall of heat before a single step was taken, Choji generously asks, do you need any help? I can carry it for Yoshino-san. That's sweet of you to offer, but she'll be fine, his mother happily tells him, a bit of pride slipping in her tone. Shikamaru never needs anything, Choji points out. Not too unlike his father that one, she answers as she moves to the safe in the product room. Choji never really took note of the safe, nor was he ever curious of the contents within. When his mother opened the steel security box, she watches his mother pull out a pill, unlike the 3 colored pills he's familiar with. It was slightly larger than even the red pill, but he couldn't help asking his mother, why is it blue? I've never seen that pill before. Closing the safe, and spinning the levers until it clicked, his mother stands at her full height. Eyeing the blue pill cautiously, she hums like she does when she's considering her words. The Akamichi clan aren't like the Nara clan. They have a much less elegant way with words and can sometimes take a moment to gather their thoughts. Ah, well, this is a special pill, so ninja boys and girls can be friendly with each other, she answers as she picks up the pace on her way back. Don't worry your beautiful little head about it. Have your father speak to you about it later, okay sweetie. Quote, Choji watched her scurry off, all the while thinking, questioning really, the possible existence of a friendship pill. Choji wondered about such a pill and the secrecy behind it long and hard. Clearly, this was a clan secret, after all, why keep it in a safe if it wasn't? But for his clan to need an actual friendship pill, can only mean it's harder for his clan to make friends than others. So difficult in fact, they needed a special chakra pill for it. Choji would not take this responsibility lightly. He loved his parents and would never want to disappoint them. Without even being told, he knows he'll keep this secret for them and the clan, because, despite the teasing, shaming, and hazing, he was proud to be an Akamichi. With designs slowly forming in his mind, he looks for a post-lunch, pre-dinner snack, as he considers the details of how this might help his newly formed team. Naruto. It didn't take long for Naruto to utilize his clones in his training. He was repeatedly knocked flat on his back by them, however, since he would spar with no less than 3 clones at a time. It was impossible to fight off an uncoordinated taijutsu attack by 3 clones no matter how little technique and strategy they used, so he hit the floor often, but Naruto didn't. He have it in him to give up here, not with so much on the line. He hadn't made any progress all afternoon, as all 3 clones looked down on him relatively clean and amused. It annoyed him, but he wouldn't have it any other way. It was the voice, Naru-ni for lack of a better name, that helped finally knock one of his clones on their back. Facing off against the clone in front of him, doing his best to match, block, or parry strikes, but leaving his back wide open to attack, he hears a, "Hey," that seemed to be behind him. Naruto blocks the clone in front with a tense forearm, while sending a blind kick behind him. At the solid contact, Naruto counters the clone in front of him in a grapple before dispersing all 3 clones. Naru-ni, Naruto calls out slightly out of breath to his surroundings, before recalling that the voice is in his head. Still, to the energetic blonde, it feels far more normal talking aloud than it does thinking conversation between himself and his future self. "You back, haha, Naru-ni, huh." The voice in his head laughs. Now that Naruto hears it, the voice's voice does ring fairly close to his own. It's deeper, more mature, yet with a hint of playfulness. "So I take it you believe me?" "Nope," Naruto flat out states. "But I don't think you want to hurt me, and I wanna know more jutsu and stuff. So, what else ya got?" "Haha, I can get behind that," Naru-ni remarks, no less amused. "We don't have a lot of time, so I'll explain your training first. After that, if there's enough time, I'll tell you more about what happened." MNHMN, Naruto sounds in complete approval. This is going to be sweet. I can't wait to burn Sasuke Tem to a crisp with fire jutsu. The look on his face, Naruto calls out laughing at the prankster's vivid imagination. "Huh, I can almost see it," Naru-ni comments. "Well, listen up because every second counts." Single quote. "Hi," Naruto yells enthusiastically. "The most important thing you'll ever learn is chakra control," Naru-ni asserts. "Now before you start complaining, you need to understand that this is like the backbone of every awesome jutsu you use. Think about ramen without the delicious broth, it's like that. Kakashi-sensei is going to teach you chakra control in, let's see, have you guys started your first D-rank mission yet?" "No," Naruto answers. "After we pass the bell test, he said we'll start in a week, so MNN, quickly checking his fingers, 6 days from now. Then he won't actually start teaching you guys chakra control for a little over 2 months, Naru-ni states with an annoyed huff. "This is vital stuff, man. Now that I think about it, Kakashi-sensei should have known you could learn this a lot faster than Sasuke." "Really?" Naruto yells boisterously. "Hey, now, I may not be using my ears to hear you, but that still hurts." Single quote. "Sheshesh. Sorry," Naruto returns. "We're going to be using a training method a lot of other shinobi don't try because they either don't have the chakra reserves for it, or they die." Naruto's neck stiffens and his eyebrows shoot up as Naru-ni continues. "The reason why it'll be okay for us is because we have large reserves, and on top of that, we heal really fast, so our brain won't pop." Naruto lets out a sigh of relief and Naru-ni continues to explain. "Yosh, are you near a tree?" At Naru-ni's behest, they move to a secluded spot deeper in the forest to train as the future Naruto explains the idea behind chakra control and how he can learn tree walking faster than anyone due to his Kage Bunshin. "Well, not everyone," he corrects himself. "Sakura-chan got it on her first try. She's got scary good chakra control." "Alright Sakura-chan," Naruto bellows, taking a break as his clones kept trying to climb the tree, with very little success. "I always knew she was special. She even beat the Tem. Yeah, she's got the best chakra control out of all of us," Naru-ni fondly replies before seriously stating, "You know, we're going to have to help her out. She may have wicked chakra control, but her reserves are pretty low, and more than that, she told me a bunch of times how she wished she trained more seriously when she was younger. Yash. Naruto quickly agrees with him. This is going to be great. When she sees how much stronger I am, she's definitely going to forget about that Tem and go on a date with me. I'm fired up. I don't think we can help her like that, Naruni sadly tells the blonde boy. Huh, why not? Naruto can only tilt his head up since technically there's no one to turn to. Answer me this, who does Sakura love right now? TCH. Naruto spits his answer, both of them acutely aware of the black-haired, self-proclaimed, Avenger. That's only because she doesn't know any better. Whether she has good reasons or not, it's still her choice to make. Just like no one can tell you who to love, no one can tell her who to love, Naruni slowly expresses. But that's not fair, Naruto calls out. He doesn't even like her. All throughout the academy, he barely looked at her. How can she be okay with that? He thinks he's so much better than everyone because he's an Uchiha and a little better at some things, but he's not. Quote, listen, Naruto, I want to ask you something else and I want you to answer me honestly, Naruni maintains. Do you love Sakura-chan? Damn right I do. The boy quickly answers without a moment's hesitation. She's the best and the smartest, and even though she's not from a ninja clan, that didn't stop her from being the top kunoichi in our class. What's her favorite color? Naruni asks, pulling Naruto up short. When he couldn't answer, Naruni continues, I guarantee you it's whatever color Sasuke likes. Her favorite food is probably whatever Sasuke likes. From her style to what she eats, everything about what she does has Sasuke in mind. Naruto turns contemplative and uncharacteristically silent. They both are, but Naruni is the first one to grow anxious enough to ask, you still there? Quote. MNN. Why are you telling me this? Naruto whines. It's really bumming me out here. Sorry. Naruni sympathetically expresses. But the reason why I asked if you love her was because I already know you do. Then why? Naruto interrupts but is quickly interrupted himself. Because I'm going to ask you to do something you won't like but will be better for her. Huh. He tilts his head, lost as to what he means. Naruto, I want you to love her enough to help her get strong rather than trying to impress her to be your girlfriend or go on dates. Right now, she doesn't know how strong she can really be because she's doing everything for Sasuke. It's like trying to study when you can only think about ramen. Ah, Naruto quickly understands. It's impossible to learn anything like that. Quote, right now, she barely trains, spends most of her time on her looks, or studying topics she thinks Sasuke would like. It would be better if she were training to get strong so she can protect those she cares about, but she's just not there yet, so we have to help her realize that quicker. Trust me, you think she's the best now, wait till you see her destroy a cliff with her fist. Ooh ah, that sounds absolutely perfect. She already has a wicked strong punch, Naruto happily says. So how do we get her there? Quote, I have a plan, but it all depends on you not pushing her with dates and stuff. I know that'll be hard since we've always loved Sakura-chan, but I promise you it's going to make her better. And later, when you see how proud she is of how awesome she is, you'll be happy you did this for her. Single quote. Quote. If it's for Sakura-chan, I think I can do it, Naruto confidently states. If it'll make her strong, I'll do anything. Hell yeah we will, the voice eagerly agrees. Alright, now let's get back to training. We got a long way to go and I don't have much time left. Can you at least tell me how you're talking to me from the future? Naruto asks. You believe me now? Naruni jokingly asks. No, I just want to hear your explanation, as all, Naruto slowly reasons. Fine, but remember to keep this to yourself, Naruni ardently suggests. You go telling people you're talking to a voice in your head that's from the future, they'll call you crazy and commit you to the insane ward. If you're lucky. Got it? Naruto nods apprehensively. They probably wouldn't believe me anyway. Well, remember the unbreakable genjutsu I mentioned before? Naruni asks, to which Naruto tilts his head to try and recall. You know, the one that has everyone trapped. It's called Infinite Tsukuyomi and it enslaves everyone in the entire world in a dream state, feeding off their chakra. Naruto's face crunches as if tasking something horrible before asking, so why aren't you trapped in the genjutsu too? Quote, it's not enough to close your eyes or cover your ears. If your body receives any sensory information, sight, sound, touch, taste, smell, then that the illusion has you. I'm pretty good at fuinjutsu and I trapped myself in a sealed expanse, a dimensional pocket, completely cut off from the outside world, he explains. Though Naruto doesn't completely get it, Naruni continues. Where I am now, everything is white and I can move around but I can't get out. I spent, well, I don't know how long it's been, but I tried to figure out a way to stop the infinite Tsukuyomi before I get myself out. Oh. F this seal, but I couldn't think of anything. That's how I started looking into traveling back in time. I felt confident I could do it, but that equation is so complex, I could inscribe it on the white floor perfectly for a whole year and it still wouldn't be enough. Not to mention I probably wouldn't have the chakra necessary to actually power something like that. So how'd you do it? Naruto can't help but ask, as he watches his clone struggle with the first 3 steps of the bark. How did you get your voice to travel back? I didn't. Well, not really, Naruni quasi answers. Kurama and I figured. Kurama. Naruto breaks in curiously. A friend keeping me from going insane, he easily answers before moving on. We figure the only ones who were probably not affected by the infinite Tsukuyomi, or heck, even time, was Kami-sama himself. Are you Kami-sama? Naruto whirls around asking to no one around. Am I going to be Kami? Exclamation mark quote. No. Naruni quickly calls. Will you just listen? Sheesh. I'm not Kami and I wouldn't know where to begin to try and find one to even ask for help. But it didn't have to just be Kami. We figured it could be a Shinigami as well, and I knew exactly how to get close to one. Our family has a really nasty sealing jutsu that calls on a Shinigami. It has this tanto in its jaws, 2 red horns popping out of its long white hair, and prayer beads in its left hand. The problem with using this nasty technique is that you have to sacrifice your life for it. Single quote. Are you? Naruto gulps. You're not dead, are you? It takes a hell of a lot more than a Shinigami to kill me, don't ya know, he asserts with glee. I sort of tricked it, actually. If the Shinigami isn't affected by the illusion, and more than likely time because they're eternal, chances good I could figure out some way to ask for help. But the more we thought about it, the less confident I was that we could convince it. But you know what? You and I have prayed occasionally, usually for amazing stuff like more ramen and fancy shinobi tools. Other people pray for all sorts of things. That's when I realized Shinigami's prayer beads might be able to hear all prayer, and if the prayer beads receive wishes from people, then it might also be able to send as well. It was the biggest gamble of my life and I don't care for gambling, but I went for it, and here I am. I summoned him, I stole his prayer beads, and told Shinigami-sama I'd give it back to him after I was done using it. Single quote. You pranked the Shinigami, Naruto yells. Awa. He must have been pissed at you. Wait. Does that mean he's pissed at me too? You've doomed my soul to hell. Calm down, you're not doomed. He wasn't really all that pissed, actually, Naruni chuckles as he said. He agreed and I've been struggling to use this thing ever since. Like I said when we first talked, it takes all of my concentration and effort. That's why I can only do this for 20 or so minutes a day. Or at least until I get better at it. Wow, Naruto says. You're crazy, man. Awesome, but definitely crazy. Thanks, but for my loved ones, I'll fight anybody. Hell yeah, Naruto calls with a clenched fist. Yosh, let's master tree walking, Naruni challenges good-naturedly. I'm thinking we can get to water walking before you meet Team 7 next week. By day's end and several hours into the night, Naruto lay panting, sweat soaked through his favorite blue and bright orange jumpsuit, with a split-ing headache, but he was making progress. He and his 10 clones can already make it halfway up a tree before they exert too much chakra and are blown off. After dispelling his first clone, a day's worth of training nearly knocked him out, easily getting the headache started. By the fifth, for some reason, his mind felt strained, hollow-like, and chalky. After dispelling the final clone, he had a pounding headache, his bones felt hotter than the surrounding muscle, and his overtaxed chakra, for lack of a better word, felt like it was choking to move. He needed to rest before he can make his way home. Even the way the night wind pulled at his hair hurt, but the pain cascading throughout his body was worth it, not that he expected it to last much longer. Injuries never seemed to last long with him. Despite the labored breath of his comatose body, he felt happy. This was hard work. It's days like this that are the currency he needs to make his dreams of being the greatest Hokage ever come true. He just knew it. Tomorrow he would train even harder. Naruni will tell him more about his plan for Sakura-chan, and he'll be water walking by next week. Sakura. Sakura was leaving one of the vendors her father's trade caravan is closely affiliated with, carrying her prize securely in her grasp. So precious was this treasure, she couldn't risk leaving it in her bag. It will remain in her protective hands the entire walk home. Sakura was euphoric as she realizes nothing could stop her in her quest now, not with this absolute treasure. Armed with this fragrant weapon, she was sure to reach Sasuke-kun's heart now. Sakura wasn't from a wealthy home and certainly didn't own property like many of the clans in the village, but her father came across all sorts of valuable items traveling through his trade routes, and her mother always ensured some form of commission for their family from her seat on the civilian council. Her father came across the latest silks, tools, wardrobe, and other odds and ends he finds throughout the country, and now, clutched in her strong grip, the most sought-after bottle of perfume in all the Elementa L nations. Every kunoichi or civilian girl with a man in her pure heart has read about its amorous properties in one or all the beauty magazines. It's the nearest to a guarantee a budding girl with prospects of love in her heart could have. And it was all mine. And if Kami-sama hasn't smiled down wonders on her enough, walking towards her now is none other than her eternal rival and strongest competitor for Sasuke's affection, the only girl who doesn't seem to know when she's lost. Well, would you look at that, the platinum blonde with pupil-less blue eyes starts mocking. Wonders never cease. Somehow all the flies in the village managed to avoid hitting that gigantic forehead of yours, Ino hurtles. Shooting stars happen less often than that. Sakura was impervious today. The platinum blonde's biting jab did nothing against the strength of her alluring weapon. Sakura allows a wide mischievous grin to spread her cheeks till they hurt, actually causing the beautiful blonde to become cautious. Slowly, and quite deliberately, Sakura raises the incredibly distinctive, highly sought-after expensive bottle of perfume with the showmanship of her delicate hand. It was a tiny thing she could easily hold between her thumb and index fingers, but the effect was as immediate as it was glorious. Ino knew instantly what the pink-haired girl had, and while Sakura is quite sure the Yamanaka clan have far more in their coffers than they need to purchase Ino a bottle, she doubted their clan head, her father, would shell out such an unreasonable amount of ryo for such a small bottle of liquid gold. Especially when its only purpose is to make his daughter more attractive to boys. Ino turns irate, before denial mars her beautiful face, then becomes angry again. Before Ino can even utter a syllable of righteous indignation, Sakura starts laughing heartily as she walks triumphantly past her arch rival. Sakura didn't have to speak, her weapon was that strong and this battle is won. It's Sakura's victory. Enjoy it while it lasts. Sakura hears the platinum blonde beauty yell at her through the busy market street. I'll get an even better bottle. You'll see. Other than having Naruto Baka on her team, absolutely everything was working out in her favor. Sakura hadn't seen Sasuke-kun since they passed Kakashi-sensei's bell test last week, so she was more than looking forward to seeing the perfection of his beautiful face and the amazement of his kami-given ninja talent tomorrow. In her eyes, it was a foregone conclusion that he was a once-in-a-lifetime shinobi and no one could ever top him. She just had to make sure she looked perfect for him. After the tragedy he's been through, it's what he deserves after all. Eagerly running home, she couldn't wait until tomorrow. She absolutely needed to prepare, and the more time she had, the better the results will be. She had thought to spend some time training and honing her skills. After all, she was the top kunoichi of their class, but one look at her hair and she knew it didn't shine quite as vibrant as she knows Sasuke would like. One look at her nails, and though her profession as a kunoichi kept her from adding any color to them, she could still make sure they were perfectly manicured. Not that she knew if Sasuke liked properly maintained fingernails, but she couldn't risk disappointing him if it indeed mattered. Add to all of that, her new premium fragrance in hand, and there was no way he could ignore her tomorrow. Naruto. D-rank missions suck, Naruto mentally tells Naruni. Last week flew by in a hurried blur of training, strength training, eating ramen, hurting all over, sleeping, training some mo. Then repeat, repeat, repeat. It was the hardest week of training Naruto had ever experienced in his life, more so than his entire 6 years in the academy. It wasn't to say that he didn't try as hard in his school days, but the bits of progress he was making under Naruni was different than the scraps he could scrounge together from hard-hearted sensei who didn't seem to care about his education in the least. In his youth, when his school texts were stolen, they would never give him another one. When he didn't understand something, the senseis were always too busy to help him. He was even banned from the library. If Naruni ever turned out to be a fake, Naruto couldn't see himself becoming terribly upset about it. Naruni was teaching him in earnest, even if it was for only 20 to 30 minutes a day. The training was even tailor-made for him. Every day of the past week he spent most of the morning, when he managed to wake up before noon, practicing his taijutsu against 3 to 4 clones as another. 4 or 5 would be practicing chakra control. After he managed tree walking, he had 4 days to master water walking, and though it was much harder, by the end of last night's training, he and his clones were lightly jogging on the small lake in Training Ground 3. Soon after the throbbing head pain of dispelling his clones abated, he was giddy the entire trek back to his apartment. Naruni pushed him, not cruelly but because he cared, and it was worth it. Even when Naruni was resting from using the prayer beads and couldn't coach him, Naruto gave it his all. He may not have experienced the things his older counterpart had, but thinking about Iruka-sensei, it wasn't hard to imagine. By the end of the week, Naruto definitely believed Naruni. He believed that this was his future self talking to him, training him, as well as the story he told. It also meant that something stronger than even his future self would be coming in a few years, and he absolutely needed to be the one to stop it. It wasn't all doom, however. Naruni would tell him other interesting things. How he has really high chakra reserves, tenketsu points that were larger than normal, followed promptly by what tenketsu's points are, his elemental affinity type and how it's used. As a physical learner, Naruto has yet to fully grasp most of the information explained to him, but Naruni doesn't see to have a problem repeating something or trying to make it easier to understand. Yeah, I wasn't a fan, at all. Naruni responded. How long are we supposed to do D ranks for? Naruto mentally asks him as he and the rest of Team 7 exit the Hokage Tower. A heck of a lot longer than you'll like, the older version answers. Have you been dismissed yet? Tilting his head to look at his Jonin-sensei reading his little orange book, Naruto mentally answers, nearly. Single quote. Don't forget the plan, Naruni maintains. I won't, Naruto sternly declares. If it involves tricking people, I'm pretty good at that. Though, usually it's to get back at someone or make myself laugh. Single quote. Now we use that talent for a little bit of good, Naruni happily asserts. Yeah, Naruto groans, unhappily about the plan, and physically shrugging Hey, how come you didn't tell me Kakashi-sensei was going to be 3 hours late? Single quote. Ha ha ha. Naruto heard Naruni laugh. That's not cool, man. Naruto yells at him, looking and pointing upward. Nah, Naruto. Kakashi calls curiously. What's not cool? And who are you talking to? Quote. Naruto whirled around in panic before quickly trying to school his features, failing miserably at it. Aha. Well, I only meant, if we're done for the day, that stupid cat scratched us up pretty good, right? Sasuke and Naruto did most of the engagement, while Kakashi coordinated, and Sakura provided support. But since Sasuke doesn't heal as fast as Naruto, Sasuke was the only one with plenty of red claw marks on his arms and face. I'm going to shave that stupid cat's hair off and skin him alive, Sakura angrily announces. No one does that to Sasuke-kun and gets away with it. Nah, I was scratched too, Sakura-chan, Naruto weakly offers. So, she hurls back at the blonde before moving to Sasuke's side. I think we're done for the day, Kakashi tells his team. You all did fine work. We'll meet tomorrow by the bridge, 7 am. Don't be late. Quote. That goes double for you. Naruto yells at his sensei, but Kakashi had already shinshined away. Don't worry, I got something you can do while you wait, Naruni tells his younger self. And it's totally going blow his mind when he sees. Single quote. Cool. Naruto responds, almost missing. Sakura asks Sasuke if he wanted to train, or eat, or take a stroll, or shop together, all of which he ignored with a barely concealed scowl as he started walking toward his home. Sakura stood deflated, sniffing her wrists, asking herself, maybe I didn't use enough. Besides smelling really nice, and admiring her long pretty pink hair, Naruto didn't know what to make of her efforts in relation to what he was prepared to do for her. It's not every day you give up the girl of your dreams so she can grow strong, and in exchange for your sacrifice, she likely ends up with another man. It's a lopsided sinking feeling that drags his feet and slumps his shoulder, but he wanted, more than anything, for her to be happy and strong, and Naruni did tell him they'd be really good friends in the future and even better teammates, so that was a positive in his book. Nay, Sakura-chan, Naruto starts but is quickly interrupted by an ill-tempered Sakura. If you even think of asking me out on a date, I'll hit you so hard you'll land on the other side of the village. Sakura's murderous green eyes and lethal tone made Naruto take a cautious step back, putting his palms up to show he's not a threat. She spins around to head home when Naruni tells him, I know it's hard, but remember, you're doing this for her, for the girl we both love. Taking a moment to gather up some courage, he runs after her, calling out, Sakura-chan. She hadn't gotten very far, but as she turned to the call of her name, she's already raising a fist to carry through on her threat. Wait, I'm not trying to ask you out. Her fist still up and clearly in a bad mood, she hollers back, then what? Exclamation mark quote. Splitting his attention between her clenched fist and her beautiful green eyes, he nervously answers, I want to help you. She stares suspiciously for several long seconds before finally lowering her fist and irately asking, how? Quote. Taking in a quick breath, and relaxing some of the tension in his shoulder, he clarifies for her precisely how he and Naruni had planned it the last 2 days. I thought of a good idea to help you get closer to Sasuke-tem. That was far harder to say than Naruto was expecting. He spent many grueling hours obsessing over it, and somehow the stomach churning and choking chest feels worse than he imagined. Worse still, his knees felt weak, and his eyes started to grow hot with prickly moisture. This was the love of his life he was helping set up with not just another boy, but his eternal rival. The aching strain in his chest was partially ignored in favor of answering her question. What do you mean? How? She took a step forward, forgetting her earlier agitation for the possibility this could mean for the future she imagined with her love. She was fully expecting to be a snarky brat for the day and drive her parents crazy after the perfume seemed to fail, but maybe there was hope of turning her day around, even if Naruto Baka was the reason for it. Okay. First, Naruto started, rushing to get this day over with. He's already planning on a full contact brawl fest against as many clones as he can make. He even makes a mental note to give them clear instructions to beat him to a bloody pulp, certain that no matter how badly he was beaten or broken, it wouldn't hurt as much as this. Do you know what chakra control is? Quote, of course, you idiot, she tells him, using her near eidetic memory to recount to him, it's the ability to sufficiently control and conserve your chakra. They taught us that in the academy. Really? Naruto genuinely asks. I don't remember that. That's because you're an idiot who can barely remember what side of the kunai is sharp, she hurtles back. Ha, ha, you didn't have to say all that, he weakly tells her, covering the sting of her verbal jab with a weak smile, though she doesn't seem to care. Eager to move on, he continues, yeah, well, I know you're the top kunoichi of our year, so you must have really good chakra control. In fact, I bet it's perfect. Sakura eyes him wearily, never one to particularly like his compliments or advances, but she couldn't really say otherwise. Maybe, she simply states, I've been told I have good control over my chakra, but aside from the leaf concentration training we hardly use any jutsu in the academy, so I can't be sure. Why? And what does this have to do with Sasuke-kun? Quote, everything, he says with a strained smile, doing everything he can to appear happy to help her even though he was dying inside. I got the perfect way for you to put your hands all over him, and the best part is, he'll be happy you did. Quote, Sakura was visibly vibrating with excitement, thinking, if what he's saying is true, then I'll be able to touch my Sasuke-kun whenever I want, and then he'll be happy I did, and then we could probably start dating, and then we could maybe even possibly kiss. Sakura's entire body swoons at the thought, turning beet red, her half-lidded eyes were dilated, and her heart and stomach were swapping from warm to fluttery. This could be a big win for her. Even though she used an entire life's supply of luck to be on Sasuke's team, that wouldn't stop Ino from trying to gain his attention. Hell, Ino might not even stop if Sasuke and herself started dating. With Ino's admittedly mature beauty and charm as her enemy, it wasn't enough that Sakura and Sasuke were on the same team. Sakura couldn't get complacent. She needed to do anything and everything possible to be with Sasuke because she's certain there isn't another kunoichi alive who would treat him right. Whatever Naruto thought of, if his claim panned out, would be for the amazing future she planned to have with Sasuke-kun. Sakura-chan. Sakura-chan. Naruto kept calling for 3 minutes before she finally regained her senses. Tell me, she demanded, rushing him a little with clenched fists. He startled, taking a step back as she insists on knowing, what's the idea? Smiling somewhat happily to see her enthusiastic reaction, though still hurting by the reason why, he tells her, you become an Iryo nin. Quote, huh? Sakura asks, face dropping with disappointment. Think about it, Naruto starts. Sasuke Tem is a mid to close range fighter, so every time he gets hurt, even a little scratch on his cheek, you would be the one to heal him, which means you have to touch him. If you knew Iryo ninjutsu right, you could have healed all his scratches and he would have been super thrilled you did. Plus, it would round out the team, right? Kakashi-sensei, Sasuke Tem and I are the fighters, so we'd need someone to patch us up if something happens. Quote, Sakura continued to peer suspiciously throughout his entire explanation, though the reason changed from how idiotic his idea sounded to Naruto Baka thought all of that after their first official meeting together. Single quote, besides think of all the cool things they can do, like healing people who are hurt and saving lives. With your control, you could be like the best healer in all of Konoha. Plus, I'm sure they have some really famous Iryo nin too, Naruto explains. Naruni was very adamant about how he said, some really famous Iryo nin too, because he was pretty sure Sakura-chan would automatically think of the village's most famous Iryo nin, since a lot of kunoichi look up to her. Both Narutos keenly understand that in any good prank, the more the person getting pranked thinks on their own to agree with you, the better the result will be. And looking at the realization dawn on her face at the mention of famous Irio Nin, he was pretty sure she remembered the one Naru ni Bri. Fly talked about. After a few seconds of deep thought, if her pondering expression is anything to go by, she finally speaks up, there's no way. I couldn't. You could. Naruto passionately interrupts her. And I can prove it. Now completely flabbergasted by the annoying blonde, Sakura can't help but gripe, how? Come on, he calls as he runs over to the nearest tree. After she catches up to him, he tells her, I bet you anything you can tree walk on your first try. That would definitely tell you if you can do it. I don't know how to tree walk, Naruto, she returns genuinely. Kakashi-sensei hasn't taught us that. He hasn't taught us anything yet. Even if he didn't teach you, I still think you can do it. Naruto returns his enthusiasm for training Drivi. Ing the point home. All you have to do is focus a steady amount of chakra to the bottom of your feet and use that to stick to the tree so you can climb. If you use too little, you'll slide off. If you use too much, you'll get shoved off and break the tree. Think of it like a magnet. Come on, give it a try. Remember, this isn't just for the team, it's also for Sasuke Tem. He sighs at the anguish, but she doesn't seem to notice. With a determined look on her face, she nods and turns to the tree. Generally, Sakura is accustomed to learning new techniques with the direction of a sensei, and not an idiot like the one beside her, but for Sasuke-kun she's more than willing to try this at least. Because if this was as possible as Naruto seems sure it is, then maybe she could use this to get closer to Sasuke-kun than any other kunoichi could, especially her rival, Ino Pig. Molding her chakra has always been as easy as stretching, and she effortlessly manipulates the flow of energy to her feet. Her first step is a tentative one. She did have to admit, however, that a small part of her liked the prospect of moving in a direction similar to Tsunade-sama of the legendary Sannin. Like many kunoichi in the village, Tsunade-sama was a heroine of hers. She grew up hearing stories of her strength, her legendary healing ability, and her beauty. So many girls in the academy aspired to be her. Whenever students had to create a report of their favorite shinobi, a good 80% of the girls chose Tsunade-sama. So when her first step stuck, easily, followed by her second step, also as easily, Sakura began to wonder how well she may actually be able to do. With her third step, she was completely parallel to the ground but felt no danger of falling. She was in complete control, and honestly, a part of her couldn't believe it. Way to go, Sakura-chan. She hears from the ground beneath her. Another part of her couldn't believe Naruto was the one who led her here. He's not a sensei, nor is he smart, or talented, he's the dead last of their class, and yet he urged her to tree walk before anyone else. When she made it to the top of the tall tree, she was a little winded, but funny enough, she was proud. Not that this was anything to be proud of. She knows this is only a first step many shinobi can easily do, but, to know she was now among them, gave her a small sense of pride. Reaching the ground, Naruto couldn't help a huge grin on his face as he proclaims, I knew you could do it. On your first try too. That's so badass. Yeah, she huffs, winded but mildly enjoying the praise, even if it is from the baka. She leans against the tree to rest some. Are you okay? He asks with a heavy amount of concern in voice. She had small chakra reserves in the beginning, Naru ni answers him as Sakura just waves him off to say she's okay. You probably have low chakra reserves, Naruto sagely repeats to her, making Naru ni laugh a little. Sakura looks at him questioningly as Naru ni tells him, I think she's on board. Now you have to talk to Ji-chan. I remember, Naruto mentally replies. I'll probably disappear before you're done, so let me just explain what you're going to do every time Kakashi is late, which sucks to say, will happen all the time. Do you know why that is? Naruto asks. I mean, why he shows up late. I do, but I can't really get into that now, Naru ni proclaims. Next time. So, what am I doing? There are a couple of exercises that'll help you master your futon chakra, Naru sagely explains. There are so many badass jutsu that you'll be able to learn after these exercises. It'll be super hard to beat you then. Single quote. Naruto moans, salivating at the thought, and finishes with, I want. Want? What? Sakura slowly asks from the tree, before pushing off to walk to him. Nothing. He quickly tells her, remembering he's not alone. I think we should start walking to Hokage Tower. What? Why? She gasps, not at all expecting Naruto to say that. "'Cause, I think Ji-chan can help us," Naruto earnestly responds to his pink-haired teammate. With an exasperated sigh, Sakura begrudgingly decides to educate him. Naruto baka, we can't just walk into Hokage Tower like that. Everyone there is extremely busy. Don't worry, he tells her, already starting to walk. It'll be fine. Besides, you need some intro stuff to be Iryo Nin. Well, why can't we just get them from Kakashi-sensei? She asks, running after him. He's not here and I don't know where he lives, Naruto naturally tells her. Do you? She just shakes her head, her beautiful long pink hair flowing easily with every shake of her head as they walk toward the tower they had left only 20 or 30 minutes ago. So, Naru starts as the teammates walk in silence. The exercise goes like this. You take a leaf, any leaf will do, place it flat on your left palm, cover it with your right palm, then try to cut the leaf in half using just your chakra. That sounds crazy, Naruto returns. Can I really do that? Hell yeah you can, and so much more, Naru answers with complete confidence. When you're trying to cut through it, that's when you're manipulating futon-natured chakra through your hand. Try to think of it like making your chakra as thin and as sharp as possible. Don't worry if you don't get it right away, it took me a while and I had thousands of clones doing it at the same time. MNN, sounds tough, but it wouldn't be worth it if it wasn't, Naruto reasons. So do this when Kakashi is late. Should I make clones while I do it too? Men, not yet, he answers. I want you doing something before he eventually shows up. Though, you probably ought to make some clones in the morning and have them practice water walking while you wait. Dispel them when sensei shows up so you're not dead on your feet for your missions. Naruto mentally groans. All RD missions had better not be like this, or I'm going to snap at some point. Single quote. Ha ha ha, yeah, I'm just about out, Naru states. Tell me how it goes tomorrow. MNN. Will do, Naru. Naruto mentally returns, but with a very real smile. What are you smiling about? Sakura asks suspiciously with a hint of disgust. Naruto groans, fidgeting a step before awkwardly answering, the real question is why aren't you smiling? I mean our team just got a whole lot stronger with an Iryo Nin. Baka. Sakura calls back, though lacking the same heat she might have if he had insulted Sasuke. I'm not an Iryo Nin yet. I don't even know how you plan on getting me material from Hokage Tower. We may be genin, but they don't just see anyone. Well, I don't know about others, but we're going to see Ji-chan, Naruto informs her. I don't usually have a problem with seeing him, though sometimes he's pretty busy. Sakura is skeptical of her blonde companion, but sure enough, Naruto, without being prompted to by the Chunin secretary, without being summoned by the Hokage himself, without even hesitation to second-guess himself, simply grabs the door's handle and walks right in, as if he were walking into his house. Hey Ji-chan, the young blonde calls out. Slack-jawed, Sakura can't believe Naruto Baka would call the leader of their entire village, the strongest shinobi, Ji-chan, as if they were related. No, not even if they were related, because even blood relatives to the Hokage would show more respect than that. He really is an idiot. She couldn't help but think, ready to drag him to the floor, to bow and beg for forgiveness, that is until the Hokage just chuckles. Back so soon Naruto-kun? The pleasant elder asks the grinning blonde. Eager for another D-rank mission. Blech. Naruto tongues. You can keep those. The Hokage couldn't help an aged belly full of slow laughter. It truly was a nostalgic pleasure to see the young repeat the same experiences he had when he was a genin. What can an old man help you with today? The Sandaime asks, then peers to the pink-haired girl still standing by the door with quite the look of surprise on her face. Isn't this your teammate? MNN. Naruto happily hums, turning from the Hokage to Sakura, then back. Ah, forgive me, Hokage-sama. Sakura starts stepping in and bowing respectfully. I'm Haruno Sakura, member of Team 7. Quote, yes, I recall, the Sandaime easily says, taking out his pipe and prepping for a good puff. It's always an interesting break when Naruto shows up, he thinks. What can I do for you? Nah, Ji-chan, do you have any scrolls or something that can help Sakura-chan do Iryo ninjutsu? She's got wicked perfect chakra control, and it would be super cool if our team had an Iryo nin in it. Men, he hums in sheer amusement, aged eyelids lifting with genuine curiosity. For this Naruto to ask for such a thing was the best surprise of a rather taxing week. I agree having an Iryo nin on the team would be quite advantageous, but Naruto-kun, how do you know this? What do you mean? Naruto asks, quirking a brow. Once we become genin, we have more access in the library. I was looking for cool jutsu but I found one about chakra control. Since Sakura-chan has perfect control, that means she'd make a great Iryo nin, right Ji-chan? It most assuredly helps, greatly in some cases, the Hokage answers, looking at them both. Why come to me, then, instead of your Jonin-sensei? It's not like I didn't think he'd help, but he left after our mission and I don't know where he lives, so I can't ask him, Naruto explains. Besides, we just need something for Sakura-chan to start with. She's got like a perfect memory, so I bet she can remember things better than I can, he finishes with a smile. Oh, I don't know Naruto-kun, you can remember a lot, it seems, the elder tells him. Getting up, the Hokage moves toward the far wall, with several long shelves filled with many scrolls. Topping many more. MNN, I happen to have a collection of scrolls on Iryo ninjutsu that spans from beginner to intermediate. Looking through his many scrolls, he finally pulls two out, then turns to a nervous Sakura. Now, these are very precious to me, so you have to promise to be careful with them. They were gifted to me by one of my students, so you'll have to return them when you're done, understand? Yes, of course Hokage-sama, Sakura quickly conveys. This is such an honor, I'll be extra careful with them, I promise. She cautiously takes the scrolls with both hands supporting each end as if she were holding a sickly baby. Alright, Naruto calls from his seat. I knew you could help, Ji-chan. So, how's your training coming along Naruto-kun? The elder asks, retaking his large seat. I'm going to be the greatest Hokage ever. Naruto bellows proudly. So my training is top secret right now. But, what I can tell you is I'm working on my chakra control. Nay, Ji-chan, did you know I have high chakra reserves, which is why I can make a lot of Kage Bunshin and be okay after. My Naruto-kun, you are growing before my weary eyes, the older man smiles. Yes, I suspected that could be the case. You should continue to train on your control, so you can finally take my job. Damn right I will. Naruto agrees vehemently. Speaking of, I should get back to work, the sagely elder tells them. Thank you for entertaining an old man for a few minutes at least. Any time, Naruto calls and they start to leave, but Naruto has to pause at the door. Turning to his first ever friend, Naruto asks, Nay, Ji-chan, do you know if Iruka-sensei is okay? They won't tell me anything. They won't even let me see him. I'm afraid I can't release his medical information, however, I can tell you he will live. And if they won't let you see him, just remember, you're ninja, and ninja always find a way. Quote. Thinking of his future counterpart, Naruto can't help but agree with a sad smile and a nod before leaving. Meeting Sakura just by the outside entrance, still carrying the scrolls like precious treasure, he immediately recalls how all this started by trying to help her win Sasuke's attention. On top of Iruka-sensei's injury, and now effectively giving Sakura a chance to another man, Naruto was not having a good day. He grumpily dumps his hands in his pockets as she cautiously walks up to him, half her attention on the scrolls and the other half on him. I thought you left. I did. I am, she huffs. I just wanted to ask you, you're not related to Sandaime-sama, are you? Wah. No. He throws back. Why would you think that? You were calling our Hokage, Ji-chan, she adamantly states as if it's the most obvious thing. That is so disrespectful. He's the leader of our village and a very powerful political figure, she loudly retorts as if he only needed to be told louder for him to get it. I've always called him Ji-chan, Naruto returns with a non-committal shrug. That's just. I don't know, that's how I normally talk to him. Further confused, she follows up asking, how often do you talk to the Hokage? MNNNN, he hums, tilting his head up to the bright blue sky, thinking back. More so when I was younger, but I'd say at least twice a week, now. Sometimes once every 2 weeks if he's really busy. You're lying. Her instant reaction quickly says. Wah, I'm not. He defends, his brows furrowing in disbelief rather than anger. He can stand a lot, but he doesn't think his own teammates should call him a liar. I wouldn't lie about that. You have to be. She throws back. He's the Hokage and you're nothing but a dead last baka. Quote. The shock could not be clearer on his face, one that quickly transforms into sad resignation. That's just another layer to the type of day he's having. He woke up late for the meeting, but his own sensei was over 3 hours late. Then there was that Kami awful D-rank mission, followed by this gut-wrenching plan to help the love of his life win the heart of another man, and now this. The girl of his dreams thinking so little of him, she couldn't even recall being in the Hokage's room not 5 minutes before while he chatted with the old man like he always does. The idea of crawling in the earth and dying seems nearly as appealing as training, nearly. The silence between them is stifling for several moments before he says, if I'm going to give you a lot of practice healing the Tem, I better go train. Quote. And train he did. While his clones worked on his chakra control, Naruto runs, trains his muscles, then runs some more, and repeats. Hours and hours of it, until his stomach had twisted itself into a tight knot and threatened to eat itself if he didn't get some ramen. The last thing he did before going to sleep was leave a cup of instant ramen on the nightstand of Iruka-sensei's room. Naruto didn't expect him to be awake, but he hoped with everything he had that his favorite sensei would see and know that he was thinking of him.